Okay, so this is Autodesk 123D Design. You've got a grid interface here. One of the things that's important to realise is you've got what's called a viewing cube here. This allows you to move this grid. So if I wanted to see the front view, I can click here, top view, I can click here, and so on. Clicking on the house always returns it to a three-dimensional view, and that will make more sense when we get some objects on there in a moment. Okay, we've got a drop-down list over here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to save to my computer. That's the most important thing, not to my projects, to my computer. And I'm going to make up a file. So I'm just going to call this one test. And I'm going to hit save. So now you can see up on the top left of the screen, it's just off your screen, but on my screen it says the word test because that's where I've saved it as. We don't need to worry about this premium or sign in or any of that kind of stuff. But we do need to know that we've got a bunch of tools along the top here. And we've got some tools down here, and we're going to look at some of those during this video. What do we want to do? We want to be able to create shapes. So the easiest way of creating shapes is to use what's called the primitives. Now, primitives basically means if I grab a shape, I can just pretty much click on it and drag it onto the screen. Once I've got it on there, I can do things with it. You can see when it selects, it goes green. If I hover over it, if I click, I get a menu. This menu allows me to do things. So one that you're going to use a lot is the move tool. If I click on move, I get a bunch of all these handles around it. Now I'm actually going to zoom with my mouse roll button so you can see this a bit closer. Okay, so I've got things that I can do to this. Now to make this a little bit easier to see, I'm going to go from a front view. Okay, in my front view, if I drag this way, I move left and right. If I drag this way, I move it up and down. And if I grab here, I can rotate it. So if I now flick that back into my 3D view, you can see what I've done with it. And if I click off it, I've lost that control again. Okay, I can obviously go back and I can choose it again and I can put it back wherever I want to put it. Okay, if I don't want something, let's put that one back sort of square again. And a little trick, if it's not sitting on the actual bed, you can select it and press the D button and it'll drop it back down onto this base here. Okay, I'm just going to pull out a few other ones. So I'm going to get another one, I get a sphere, drop a sphere out, and I'll get a cylinder. You can see there's lots of different ones to choose from. Okay, what else can I do with them? Well, I can make them go onto each other. So if I wanted to join this one to this one, the easiest way of doing it is to use this thing called the snap tool. So I'm going to choose snap. It'll say which surface do you want to snap. I'll take this top surface here and I'll snap it to this one here. And you can see what happens. Positions it and it tries, if I put it on the top, tries to put it right in the middle. So it centers it for you as well. Okay, that's all easy so far. What else can I do to it? Well, I can change the size of things. So if I click on this bottom one here now and I go to Smart Scale, I can basically grab the whole thing by one of the handles, like here, and I can squish it all this way, or I can expand it all, or I can move it, and you can see how it all stays in proportion. I can make all sorts of weird and wonderful shapes with it. Materials, what do materials do? Well, I can make an object look like something else. So if I select an object and then I choose something, say wood, it makes that surface look like that thing. Choose another one. If I want to do something different to that one, I'll make that one into glossy plastic, and I can change the color of it by moving my color over here, choose overlay, choose whatever color it is I might want. So that'll be lighter, that'll be darker as I move this across, and the color itself will be dictated by this one. So if I want a kind of pink shape and I want it to be very light, very dark, I'll move this around here and you can see it changes the color underneath. When I close and click off, it remains that color. Although I've put these two together using the snap tool, the fact that I can put different colors on each one means that they haven't been made into one object. They're still separate. However, if I click on it now, it highlights both things. So if I try and move it, it'll move both of them. If I just want to move one of them, say the top one, I just click again. Okay, now you can see the green line is only around this one. If I now choose my move tool, I can just move this particular one. So perhaps I wanted to do a rotation of something with it, put it on a nice weird angle. Okay, I'll show you what I mean by that. There you go, sideways on. I might even still want to shove it in there so it sticks inside the thing. Okay, click off it, go back to my 3D view, and you can see now I've basically stuck one inside the other. They're still separate objects though. Okay, if I wanted to make them into one object, I could do that. I could basically select the whole thing, and I could come up over here, and under this menu there's one called combine. And if I combine them, watch what happens. Okay, it'll basically say which one do I want to join, and I click on the first one and then the second one, and then press enter, and now that's one object. I can't make this bit a different color to this bit. It's one object. So if I hold down the scroll button of my mouse, the round wheel button, I can move all my page around. Okay, if I showed you already, if I scroll my mouse button, that zooms me in and zooms me out. But if I hold down my middle scroll button and my shift button on the keyboard, I can do this. I can pan and all the way around to see different views of it. If I get confused, if I mess it up, I'm upside down now, I can always come here and hit the house, which is the home button, and it'll always take me back to the default view. And often, as I've shown you already, going for the side-on views basically makes it much easier to arrange things the way you want. This blue line is my grid line. Okay, I'll go back to my 3D view, and I'm going to get rid of these things for the moment. I'm just going to draw a window around them and hit delete on my keyboard. So I'm back to nothing. So we've seen primitives. These are the way you can drag out all these different shapes and you can combine them in different ways. Okay, the other things, I will show you a few other things to do with this. I'm going to do the same thing again. I'm going to bring one out, and I'm going to make this one a bit bigger. So this time I'm going to go to something called scale, and I'm going to click onto scale, and it says down here, what do I want to scale it by? Now you can go in small numbers or big numbers. If I want to make it twice the size, I put a 2 in there. You can see it jump to a second size, click off, and then that'll be my second size. And you can see from this line, it's not now sitting on top of the line, it's underneath the line. So I'm going to click on it again. Remember, I press the D button and it'll place it on where it should be. Okay, all easy stuff. What else can I do to this shape? Well, I've got some other tools up here that I can play with. I'm going to show you a few of them. So this one under the modify panel, this is one that you're going to use all the time. Press and pull. You choose this one and then you choose a face. You can see the faces go green. If I want to use this one, I'll click on this one and I get an arrow. Pull the arrow, it makes that line bigger, and you can see there's a number here. So if I wanted to make it go by something specific, so I want to make it go 30, I just type in 30 and press enter. Now I can use this as many times as I want and on as many faces as I want. So if I choose this face, and I can go forwards or I can go backwards. Okay, I'm sorry, I selected two sides at the same time, then I didn't mean to do that. Let's click off that again. I'll go back to my modify, and I'll only select this side. Okay, positive or negative makes it even smaller. You can see if I go too thin, if I go less than 0, this red error message comes up. Okay, so I'm just going to modify this again, show you one more time. Choose the top one, and I'm going to make this a bit shorter. Okay, so what else can I do with it? Well, still under the modify panel, I've got this option here for doing a fillet. Okay, a fillet, if I click on an edge, I can click more than one edge. So if I click all 4 of these edges, you see they all go green. And I've got a little arrow. If I pull the arrow, a fillet puts a curve on a shape. Okay, there's 2 ways of doing it, either by dragging the arrow, or I can come down here, and again, if I got a specific number in mind, so if I want to put 5 mil, I just type in 5. Okay, we've seen before, undo gets rid of those things. Okay, next one is a chamfer. A chamfer is like a flat edge. So again, I could choose all 4 edges. I'll just do it on one for now to show you. And a chamfer puts this angle on it. So again, I can type the dimension in, or I can do it by eye. Click off when you're happy. If I look at that now from my left side view, you can see that I've cut that perfect edge off. So I've got all these different little tools I can use to manipulate my shapes. So if I want to turn something from a basic shape into a more complex shape, that's how I do it. So if you need to know the size of something and you can't remember how big you drew it, and it's important that it has to be accurate, you can use this one here, which is called the measuring tool. Click on that, it opens up a little window for you. Okay, and I'm just going to go from this point here to this point here, and it will tell me that that's exactly 22 mil. So if, for instance, I wanted this thing to be 20 mil high instead of 22 mil, what I could do, now that I know that this is 2 mil too high, is I could go back to this tool, I could choose my extrude tool again, choose this top surface, and if I go down by -2, okay, press enter, I know now, it's made a funny shape for me, but that doesn't matter, from here to here now, if I measured, will be 20. So let's try that out and see if it works. 1 point, 2 points, 20 mil. So the measuring tool is useful for getting things accurate. Okay, let me show you the text tool. Just before I use the text tool, I'm just going to choose a surface to put my text on. I'm just going to stand this one out a little bit, make it look more interesting. Okay, I'm going to put my text on here. Choose my text tool. It says which surface do I want to put on. You can see as I hover over they change colour. I'm going to put it on this one, so I'll click when I'm on there. And then the second click says where do I want to start my text. So if I put it down somewhere like this, I'm going to type in something simple like my name. And if it's not positioned the way I want it, I can either move the angle or I can move the start position. So let's get it roughly where I want it. I don't want to change the size of it or the font itself for now. I'll leave that all as normal and click OK. At the moment, all that's done, if I show you, is it's just basically printed the word on there. But if I wanted to 3D print this model to actually make it into a solid object for real, I might want it to stick out. So I can click on my text, click on this little icon or hover over it, and choose this one that says extrude text. Choose extrude, in the same way as before, I can pull it out, say 3 mil out, click off it, and although that looks a bit weird, it looks weird because it's still got what's called sketches switched on. So if I come over here and I can say hide my sketches, then I get the solid object. And again, if I wanted to make that look a little bit easier to see, again, options over here, I can say I want the material and the outline, and that puts an outline edge around it. So sometimes that's nice to be able to see what things look like. So we might want to make more complex shapes, and there's only so much you can do by using these drop-down primitives. We might want to do what's called sketching and actually draw some for ourselves. So I'm going to show you how to do that. I'm just going to get rid of this one that I've already started, delete that away, so I'm back to nothing again, back on my canvas. So I'm going to draw a shape. Before I draw that, I'm going to choose my top view. So I'm just going to draw directly onto this page. It's like having graph paper. I'm going to choose this sketch tool. There's lots of ways I can do it, but I'm going to go for this one called a polyline. Now a polyline does straight lines, spline does curved lines. So I'll stick with a straight line polyline one. I'm going to choose that option. It says where do I want my drawing? I want it on this surface somewhere. Okay, now it's saying where's my first point to start with. So I'm just going to click and make a really random shape. I don't even know what it is at the moment. I'm just literally clicking all over the place and making a weird shape. And I'm going to join it back up again, and you can see, I'm going to press enter, as soon as I've joined my lines up, it creates a solid shape. This is blue, it's filled in. Okay, now what I can do with that is I can extrude it like I do normally. So if I go into my 3D view and I'm going to choose this shape by clicking on it, and again I get a little set of options. I've got more options now because I can do more with this shape, but the one I'm going to pick is the extrude option. Choose extrude, pull it upwards, and there I've got myself a solid shape. Press enter. Now again, that shape might not be exactly where I want to. I can still see the sketch, so I can hide my sketch if I want to, but I can do things to that. I can move it in any position I want, and I can still use all the same tools on it. So if I want to come back and I want to extrude something and make it look different, I can still change this shape afterwards. I can punch holes through it and whatever I want to do. In fact, if I show you how to make a hole through something, even once it's solid, there's two ways of doing it, either before or after. This one's solid already, so if I was going to put a hole through this, I would probably make myself a little circle. So I'm going to sketch myself a circle. I'm going to put it over here out the way somewhere, and say I want my 10 mils good. I'll say 10 mil, and I'm going to choose this circle to extrude it now. So once I've pressed enter to confirm it, I'm going to click on here to get my little menu up again, pick extrude, and I'm going to pull this all the way up, make it nice and tall, and I'm going to position that now in the middle of this one. So how am I going to do that? Well, I'll select it first and choose my move tool, go to the top view, and I'm going to use my little arrows. So I'm going to push this now wherever I want. So I'm going to try and put it pretty much in the middle there. That's pretty good. and I'm going to, before I click enter, I'm going to go to the side view, and in my side view I'm just going to pull it so it goes right the way through. Okay, that's good enough. Click off, go back to 3D view. So I've now got two objects, and I've got one object going straight through the middle of the other one. What do I do with that? If I want to make a hole, I do the opposite of combine. So combine would join the two together. So I'm going to come up to my same menu option here. Instead of combine, I'm going to choose subtract. Okay, I'm going to take one away from the other. So choose that, which is the one I want to have to start with. I'll go for the big one, then I'll choose the little one, and then I'll press enter. And there you go. It's created a hole for me. If I zoom through, you can see there's a hole that goes right the way through because I've subtracted one material from another. Okay, what would have been the other way to do that? Well, the other way to do that would have been to draw it with a hole in it. So if I make myself a simple sketch again, so I'm going to choose my sketch tool, choose where to put it, find a starting point. So again, I'll make a bit of a random shape, doesn't matter what it is. This time I'm going to draw another circle. Now I want to show you something that's really important. If you start a drawing and then you want to add to that drawing, now I can actually grab these points and I can move it while it's still in sketch form. But if I want to add something else to it, I have to select this one as my drawing tool. So I'm going to come over here, choose circle. Now the first thing it's going to say is where do I want it to actually draw, and it doesn't mean where on this object, it means what object, because I could draw it here, but I want to draw it on this one. So I choose this object so it goes green and click once. Then the second click will be where I want to put my circle. So if I want a circle there, I'll drag it out and make it a bit bigger this time. I'll make it 15 or something like that. Let's actually type in 15 and make it accurate. Press enter a few times. So I've got a circle and I've got my weird shape. This time, if I go back into my 3D view and I'm going to spin around so you can see it, I'm going to choose this one and I'm going to do extrude again. But this time when I extrude, it doesn't extrude the hole because the hole's in the middle of it. I didn't select it. So now again I'm going to hide my sketches so they get a bit confusing otherwise, and I look around and there we go. So there's two ways of doing those sorts of things. I can either create the shape and then take something from it, or I can draw it without that thing in and then extrude it. Okay, there are obviously other tools here to be explored, and some of the other videos will give you more detail, but those are your starting points. You know two different ways now that you can create shapes. You can either use primitive shapes and drag them on, you can resize them, you can put angles on them, chamfer them, put all sorts of things to move them and twist them and rotate them and so on. Or you can come up to the sketch tools and you can draw these shapes, and then from those sketches you can extrude them to a solid shape. You can use the snap tool to join one to another. You can use the material tool to change the colors and the material types of them, and you've got options over here for hiding certain things. You could even, if you want to, hide the grid so you can't see the grid. Okay, so lots of things to play with. The other videos on this web page will show you some more advanced tools if you need to use them, but there's more than enough there to start you off. Good luck, have fun.